All right, friends, welcome to False Advertising. This is the show that aims to dispel your misconceptions, and today we're going to try and build you a 2021 toolkit. Joining me today are my co-hosts, Donovan and Niru.
Which one of us goes first?
It's up
You go
to you.
first.
Specify, bro. This isn't. I got a face for radio, bro. You're helping. You gotta throw me a bone here.
No, you go first. You go first.
All right, what's good, guys? You've already seen me too many times. The man of the hour, though, Niru. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I was gonna say like I shouldn't go first because I haven't done this yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like, how many times can they listen to our two dumbasses talk about ourselves?
that's right. That's right.
You're the special guest.
Yeah, tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about yourself, and just take it away.
Yeah, so I'm Nero. I've kind of been shooting, been interested in like photography, racing, cars, automotive, all that kind of stuff for a very long time. Started photography more in university, but automotive and cars were just a passion from a very, very young age because I grew up in the Middle East. So oil money, kind of that just kind of breeds in, and so a lot of car stuff was involved in there. And then I slowly after university, during university, I basically started to figure out how to bring in my passion for cars and photography and try and figure out how to make a career in there. And slowly been working towards that, and finally got a job in the automotive industry, working at a dealership doing photography content for Mercedes and Subaru. So that's the current situation at the moment. But yeah, more plans will be revealed later.
I like it.
Yeah, he's been super on that grind. I've kind of watched over the last couple of years from him just, slowly networking and making contacts to getting jobs in social media and then eventually just doing what he loves and doing that across multiple kind of platforms and avenues. And I thought it was super respectable, and I commend you on that.
Thank you, man. Even from a young age 12.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's I guess that's where I know Ryan more from, like childhood.
Yeah, that's right. We used to know each other and grew up a little bit, and then we reconnected a few years ago on a basically the outskirts of a platform for pushing yourself and finding new experiences through discomfort on Yes Theory. And here we are today, watching the man work out his dreams. So friends, it is a new year. It is hopefully going to be a new all of us. What did you guys do over your New Year's?
Happy New Year! Holy shit! I feel like that really sets the tone, right? That really sets
Yeah.
the tone for how my New Year went. Where I'm like, oh yeah, it's 2021. Same shit, different number. Yeah.
That's right.
No, for me it was pretty chill. Not a whole lot I can do in the heart of Toronto and the GTA. Like shit's rough out here. Stayed inside. Just spent it with my girlfriend and her family. Just played board games, had a chill time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good time. We basically just shared how we usually do and just made it a fun games night.
Nice.
Watched a couple movies. We watched Get Smart, and then we watched Little Women. It's like a new film adaptation of a really old book. That was my New Year's.
I'm sensing a theme for your entertainment here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Nira?
Kind of did it quietly as well, to be honest. Like I think I was telling Ryan earlier. I started chatting to a bunch of creatives, all from Toronto that we kind of know, and we kind of rang in the new year by playing Quiplash on Discord.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I lived the life of excitement, clearly, because Quiplash is life right now.
It's true, man.
I didn't go to ham, but after midnight struck, I snuck into my workplace and I jumped on trampolines, and that's how I rang in the new year. That was fun.
That's a good time.
Speaking of ringing in the new year, because 2020 hit us like a truck, I just thought I might talk about the Twisted Tea meme a little bit. Have all of you guys seen this?
I actually haven't seen this meme.
I haven't seen. No.
Oh dear. Hop over to.
Oh yes, this I have.
Yeah. it's one hell of a story. Basically, this guy was just being racist, and then he got smashed with a Twisted Tea. Pretty normal, right? But social media kind of got a hold of it, and now the whole thing is there's two energies 2020. You could be Ocean Spray or you could be Twisted Tea. And I'm a fan of that because it is a good way to send off a shitty year with an aggressive meme.
Oh, I had seen this meme. Oh, yeah. I didn't realize it was a Twisted Tea. Holy shit, yeah.
Yeah. So now there's a whole bunch of like my expectations for 2021. Good stuff.
That
is so good.
To be honest, it couldn't be anything else other than Twisted Tea or Ocean Spray. It had to just, according to the laws of the internet, it just had to be one of those two.
That's it. But there are a lot of interesting things that are coming out because, or I guess, in the new year. For instance, Ontario's planning on doing a rent freeze for most or all of 2021, and they're just kind of going through the stipulations of that. Nova Scotia is raising their minimum wage. Daycare prices are going down, so it looks like the new normal is slowly shifting how our lives are going to look, and that's cool to see that we're passing legislation to kind of cope for the new kind of standard of living that we're having, which is good because that ties into the fact that today we're going to try and talk about a 2021 survival guide. Fingers crossed that all of the advice that you heed from us does you well, and if it does not, you can visit the legal department.
You don't get your money back.
100% refunds on
right.
$0, right?
That's exactly. The question is, are you guys still doing New Year's resolutions? Are you waiting for quarantine to be over, or at least for some restrictions to change? What is it for you guys?
I'll let you go first.
Oh, well, JK, we went both. Okay. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not a huge New Year's resolution person in general.
Mm-hmm.
Just personally, I don't really see anything wrong with it. I guess it's just change is very like situational. I guess there's nothing usually special enough about a new year that causes me to like actually need to change. I guess if that makes any sense. Like it's more specifically, it'll be like, or at least recently, the best context like university when you change over semester. Mm-hmm. So like that, or like when you're going back to school or starting work. That's usually things like that would prompt me to be like, I need to get my shit together and like start doing stuff. So granted, I'm going back for my last year of school now, right? Because I graduate after this year. My resolution is kind of like just to pass. That's a good one. I'm kind of like very checked out. Online school sucks. While the rest of the world is slowly starting to figure out how to do online school, the universities have not. So I can only speak for mine, but man, they're not doing too hot on online schooling. I've heard like, and it's like sad too, because there's like a bunch of like private institutions and even like colleges and stuff that have just like really picked up on it. I think it's just all of these like large universities that are typically have like the hype and the clout associated with them are the ones that suck the most right now. You're just basically like at this point, I'm literally just paying for clout. I'm paying for the piece of paper and clout, and any learning I'm actually going to do between now and when I graduate is going to be like 100% self-driven. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just kind of setting myself up to get my portfolio and stuff together, and
right,
fingers crossed the job market doesn't suck too bad, and hopefully at least in tech I can find a job, because that hasn't changed too much, and if anything has grown. Like remote work in tech is like it's not really a shy topic or anything like that. So
yeah, tech was the most ready for it for sure.
Still need to get my shit together, so that's kind of what my 2021 is going to look like.
Fair enough. How about you, Matt?
I don't really tend to put resolutions because it's just like, I think it's just a way to set up for failure. It's just like putting so much pressure on yourself, to be honest.
That's fair.
That being said, though, like for the past couple of years, I've always had a resolution, despite me saying this right now.
Right.
But I kind of shifted that from last year, to be honest, and that's where I decided like, let's not try and make any resolutions. Let's just try and focus on becoming just better in terms of more in terms of health wise. So
nice.
That's kind of what I did last year, essentially, is try and focus on health. So luckily dropped a lot of weight, which came at a perfect time because we were all kind of like forced to sit and think and then
absolutely
not do anything. It's bad to say, but it's just like it couldn't have been a more perfect time to focus on your health. Right.
Yeah.
For this year, it's more just about continuing to progress in my own sort of career and trying to figure out how to show my work in different ways and continuing to progress in terms of like reaching for Formula One, which is my main target at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But also continuing to work full time and do my best at that essentially. So
Fair. Yeah, personally, I don't have like these, like I have goals that I want to hit, but they're more about like consistent growth. For instance, like this year, I did really want to start some online projects, and like I hit like my 100 subscribers goal on YouTube. I ended up like making some money off of online ventures, and for me that was good enough. Of course, like ideally, you're always wanting to scale and grow more, but the fact that there's consistent like some kind of growth or feedback, I was happy with. So going into the new year, I'm just going to look to continuing that. But what's interesting is I think going forwards, we're going to see like a new norm, right? Like a lot of things have changed over the last year, and I think a lot of things will continue to change. And what are the things that are normal now in 2021 that people might not have already accepted or understood? I think the first one we could definitely talk about is the fact that like online work is probably just going to be a normal thing because it cuts costs, and now it's like socially acceptable, right? Like why would I rent out an office building when I could take like a small corner room and run admin staff that just needs to file paperwork, and then everyone else is just like over a Zoom call.
yeah, honestly, that's super accurate. Yeah, in terms like even for my work in the past, since this lockdown has basically started in Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
I've basically asked like, hey, can I work from home because it's not just the safety wise, but in terms of like just being more productive. Like I find myself tend to be just being able to focus a lot more rather than having to put on a show, I guess, at work.
Right.
But then still like having that balance of like I know I can go to work for certain things and I can still do that balance. I don't have to necessarily be there all the time just to show face because I
Mm-hmm.
can still do my own work. So yeah, working from home definitely. Um, I guess another new norm. We still have to hopefully this doesn't become a new norm, but for the short term is basically always not doing any events. So
Yeah.
stuff like this, like on being on Discord, watching Twitch, chatting with your friends online.
Mm-hmm.
That just like has to become a new normal, which kind of sucks.
For
Mhm.
sure.
But I guess there's no other better option at the moment, so we kind of have to go along with it.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna get the
Meeting.
extroverts dying a little bit for sure.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. I was
exactly.
gonna say like meeting people. I don't even know what the new normal is for that. Like, actually no, I have an idea. Meeting people now is literally just like friends of friends, and that's basically all you got in terms of like social interactions. Like I think a lot about like people I used to meet when I went to, well, I guess kind of ties into events and stuff like that too. But
Mm-hmm.
even like clubs, all the stuff at university, all the different like events and things that would run where you just went to like random places and you could just make acquaintances, make friends, and meet people.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what, I guess the new normal for that is really just like I hope my friends got friends because then I get and you either invite yourself or get invited or have some kind of like this, right? It's
Yeah.
things like this where it's like, well, Ryan and I are here now. I've met Nero.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe we'll hop into a Jackbox game at some point, right? Like the three of us
Yeah,
might be together, and I'll meet either Nero's friends or Ryan's friends or whoever else is there. And that's basically, I've made a lot of like met a lot of cool people that way. Like, yeah, a lot more people are playing games now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real big one. Like there is way
yeah,
people I never expected to see ever like online. Like it was actually the funniest thing. I remember like I caught up with an old friend from summer camp around like Christmas time. Like I had like Google Photos. It was like, oh, here's memories from like 3 years ago, like when we hung out on Christmas, like Boxing Day, a couple of years back, 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, Merry Christmas. I sent the photo, and we were just like chatting and talking, and it's just like so funny because like not the stereotype, but this girl is just like more stereotypically like basic. Like she's just very like I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean like in terms of just like what you expect from just
The generic lifestyle of like
yeah, like
non-gamer.
just like of not gaming, just like more interested in like makeup, very social, like
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks, like that whole like just like social friend. And she was like, Yeah, I started watching Twitch streams and stuff, and I made a bunch of friends, and now I run a Minecraft server on Discord with a bunch of people.
That's great.
And it's just, and you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just so fun. And it's just, like things like that where you're like, damn, this is the last thing I expected to see you doing. So it's like, yeah, now we're like, oh yeah, you play Minecraft too? Let's play Minecraft sometime. I'm like, bro,
Wow.
so many people on like Valorant now. Like
Mhm.
basically, Valorant's a big one, I guess, because all the people that used to play League but didn't actually want to play League, and it's just equally as popular. So like now there's just so many of my friends are on League. Like we have a Discord server of like extended friends. I'm actually curious to see how many people are in this. Let's see. There's like how many are offline. Let me just check that. Yeah, we have 93 offline, not counting people online. And that's just
Fair.
a server of all these people we play like Valorant, Minecraft, all these other games with. And it's just people um I think it's actually my girlfriend's friends from high school that started it, and then now it's all their friends from uni and like extended circles growing out basically, and it's just
So I think
that
this is
kinda-
like what's interesting is like we've always been able to make friends of friends easier than like just random acquaintances. But the thing is like now with like when we had lighter restrictions, right? Like you would probably only meet friends of friends at like the best of times when we're in yellow or whatever, and you could go out. And it would feel weird for you to talk to somebody new because there's like this social stigma that'll probably stay here for the next few years. Is like unless you're already in the same social group, there's like this automatic I should probably have distance, right? And so experiences like yours are probably going to be the new norm, whereas like once upon a time you could just go to the bar and meet people and it would be fine.
I think
yeah.
like the perfect example though is just like um in the past couple days when I've been on this Discord chat server with like a bunch of creators, usually at like certain events like those where you actually go to a physical location and have a bunch of photographers, creators, videographers there, you don't
Right.
get a chance to meet all of them. You focus in on one person or you stick with a friend. Um, if you're an introvert, if you're extrovert, you end up talking to a lot more people, but even then you don't have a chance to meet everyone. But with stuff
Right.
like this on Discord servers, you're literally chatting to everyone, and you can see who's this person. You can look up their stuff online. You can start appreciating the work from there. Whereas on a normal circumstances at a physical location or an event, you wouldn't be able to do that because you just either don't have the time or there's just way too many people to cover. So um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like helping at least make stronger connections with more and more people.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of old friend groups reach out too now, right? It's like what has been interesting is I find a lot of the people have taken the time to evaluate what are the social connections they find the most strong, and those are the ones that they've like really tried to reach out for and do those like Zoom chats, those catch ups. But like conversely, I wonder if when things start to loosen up again, are we going to see people being more socially disconnected than ever before, right? They're going to be used to this 6 foot distance, and now I think what'll be really funny is you're going to see a lot of people that are like Gen X and Boomers that are having the same like social patterns as millennials, just always on their phone because that's all you've been doing for like the last year, right? And so once
Mm,
upon a time was like, oh, you should not be on your phone so much. That's now the thing that everybody does.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just
I think when things clean up, I think there's gonna be a new norm when we're in this transition period. But I do believe like a lot of like I don't know, maybe it's just because of some of the people that I know. I like to believe that there's going to be like some return to what we had before. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't I think well, this gets like a little bit deeper, I guess, and it's a little bit more projecty. But I don't think the social distancing thing is natural at all. Like I don't think that's even something you can train into people. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just
Yep.
feel like that's so baked into so much like culture and just friendship and even just like I want to say like human psyche and just like on my limited like my first year stupid understanding of psych,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like I feel like that's just something you can't take away from people. I think like the moment you're like we're rationalizing like yeah I can't do this because it's not safe. But I think as soon as you're allowed to like go out and hug your friends or like be close, you know what I mean? Like shoulder to
Mm-hmm.
shoulder, just like I feel like that's just such a part of like culture as people
Right. And so I
that
think 10 years down the line that'll be the case. But it's
yeah
it's it's
exactly.
like the 3 years or the 5 years where we're all not sure, and you're
Hmm.
gonna be that close with a friend, and everyone on the street is watching you. That's the shit that I'm talking
That's
about, right?
I don't,
that's-
maybe I don't know, cause like I usually just see people like, cause there's always that thing too, right? Like it's only like you don't know who's isolating, cause it is technically legal. You have like
That's fair.
you're not fully like it's not like no you live in complete isolation. We haven't hit that point yet,
Hmm.
but it is like if you live alone, then you're allowed to like have like a contact with another household and things
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's like a personal thing. I don't know. I've never like seen people out and about and been like, wow, look at this group of people breaking social distancing. It's usually like, oh, they're just together. Like these are just people who are all in like a bubble. And I wonder if that'll be like it'll just stay that like, but to your point though, right? Like, is it going to get into this point now where friend groups are more isolated? Like now the only way we make friends is like I need to have some previous knowledge or connection.
Right.
Like if this group of like 4 people that I met through quarantine and we all know we're on the same page, if we run into another group of 4 people, we're gonna
Mhm.
put a 12-foot distance between us. Like
Yeah. No.
Is-
Exactly.
Yeah.
are we gonna get even more like social pockets now in
Mhm.
person, I guess.
Curious. All right. So
yeah.
what are the things then that we should leave in the past? Right now, with like a lot of different like revolutions just in the workplace and like social changes, what are things we should leave behind us in 2020?
I'll let you go because I'm still thinking.
Fair. You know,
Yeah, go for it.
I'm very happy to leave behind people's habits of not washing their hands. I am very happy to leave that behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. That's a really good one. I didn't
Yeah.
That's a
think
really
about.
good one. Actually, the amount of people I've
I didn't
seen, the amount of guys I've seen leave washrooms with not washing their hands, I'm just like, I'm not going to be touching
Right,
it or
like,
talking to it the entire
COVID
time.
low key regained my, hope for humanities when I saw like people washing their hands and using hand sanitizer in the washroom. I was like, okay.
Dude, my favorite thing is like, I don't remember. I think it might have been in Asia or something, but like they would literally have like they started attaching like LEDs. I think these are only in like fancy hotels in some places, but they literally had like timers that would come on for you then, like when you would start washing your hands because it's like the automatic
Damn.
tap. So they would like count down for you, and I was like, oh, this is so patronizing, but so good.
Yeah, like low key just black lights
Like
washing
just like a
your
little-
hands.
Yeah, literally. Like it's just like counting down as you do it, so you know how to do it. My favorite is like all the apps and stuff that you have now that you can you can get like apps on your phone that keep time for you,
Mm-hmm.
help you wash your hands properly.
Help you wash your hands.
Yeah, there's all much crazy stuff.
There's a you put us on the, at least you put me on the spot. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what else I could leave
I
behind.
can go. I think one thing that we can leave behind is like mandatory office. Like I really
yeah.
hope work from home becomes at least an option. I still think there's value, and I don't think office work will ever go away entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely hope that this like helps all companies, like especially older ones, see the value in like work from home.
So like work from
If
home
not,
and then
like-
come in on for the major meetings and team things.
Yeah, and stuff like that. Like I think this has been like a big thing in tech startups. Like I think Airbnb used to do this when they first started. I could be wrong, but there was one basically they had a small office, and as their team grew, rather than buy a larger space, they basically just had teams on each day of the week use the office space
Oh wow.
or like something like that. Like basically it was only enough space for like one team. And as they grew to like the size of 2 or 3 teams, they basically just said, all right, you work from home Mondays and Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
And then these teams are only here Mondays and Fridays, and then alternate Tuesday, Wednesday, things like that. Or maybe it was like like some system like that, basically, where they just had like one space for collaborative work that people
Right.
could come in, and like that's when all the meetings would happen, all the brainstorming, all of your
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then the rest of the time was just like Zoom calls if you needed to.
So more flexibility, kind of.
Yeah. So like something like that. And I hope like more businesses see the like benefits of that. Just
Mhm.
because like
Sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
if I'm
I'm
not
good.
mistaken, I think Shopify has actually gone all virtual. I don't.
That
think
is
they
true.
have an
Yeah.
That is
office
true.
anymore.
They
So-
said that. They said after this they're just not going to return their
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
They're going
it's
for
just going to be interesting, especially people that I guess live in Toronto, but more specifically to us in Waterloo because we have a pretty big Shopify office here. So it's very specific, but in terms of like just having that space there just being empty because it is a good space to be in. So I don't know if this brings up more opportunities for creators
Mm-hmm.
or people that haven't been, I guess, been able to afford office spaces like that before, to now be able to be go into those areas, and utilize it, or to completely use it for something different, right? So,
Yeah, and
um,
potentially that stuff could be at a discount if we're looking like if more and more companies do that kind of thing for sure.
Yeah. Spotify was very high on the list of places I wanted to work. I say was, I guess it still is, but I am. The all digital thing is a little off putting. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I get
Like
that.
entirely digital is like I
it's
don't
a bit
know. I don't know how
scary.
I feel about that. Yeah, I don't. Well, coming off the back of a 4 month co-op that was like fully digital, it was for I worked at Manulife, which was I guess it's not the pinnacle of
Yeah.
the team I was on. It's not the like I'd say the team that I was on is pretty good for like just in terms of like tech adoption and like how in tune with like standards as they are. Like that team was very, very like detached from the rest of like the bureaucracy that exists in most of like the Manulife banking and like finance stuff.
Donovan's like, how
So
do
like,
I shit
it
on the
was a very
company but not my team?
well, yeah, basically, it's an old company, right? Like
Yeah.
it's an old company, but their team, like the team was very like isolated. It was just a very interesting thing, like because if you ever wonder, you like look at a company and you're like, wow, this is like how does a company like this continue to work and continue to like not go bankrupt when it looks like it runs like it's because behind the scenes there's just people that do care.
Mm-hmm.
And, but you just don't see it because all the like visible stuff you just see is like the big old like brick buildings and
Yeah, exactly.
like really really old upper management and stuff like that, but like down in the works there's it was just but anyway, uh that aside, it was just it's very hard. If I hadn't already worked with them before, because I had worked with them previously before quarantine started,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like it would have been really difficult had I not already had that connection to like become friendly or I don't know, get intimate or just like become yeah, just I don't know what the word cordial. No, cordial doesn't. But yeah, like how do you get a friendship basically with your
Yeah,
coworkers? Because I feel like that's a really important part of any workplace
Yeah.
that isn't like talked about as much. Like if you go to work and you don't enjoy spending time with any of the people there, it really doesn't matter. Like you're just not gonna have a good time. So
No, that's true, right? Like if
yeah,
you don't enjoy your experience doing anything, it could be the most fulfilling thing. But if you're not enjoying the time or at least getting some kind of benefit, then you're just gonna fall off, right?
eventually, yeah. So I wonder how that will play into there. But I also believe that a company like Shopify doesn't do something like that and
Fair.
not know about these kind of things. So I'd be very interested to see how they handle it differently.
Yeah.
Or like what kind of solutions have they come up to with these problems, right? Like, that'd be really
yeah,
cool.
Mm-hmm. Something I'm happy to leave behind is I think a lot of people have given up judging people for like semi-mainstream hobbies. Like gaming is a really good example of that. Where
Mm,
once upon a time everyone's like, "Oh, you have a hobby," right? And now it's like, well, that's all you have now because you don't have the normal day-to-day outing excursions, right? So you'll have people that are picking up new series, new types of shows, new fandoms, games, stuff like that. And I'm happy to see people embrace just new types of culture.
yeah. Well, that's a
yeah. I
big one
love
for
that.
sure.
More time to consume. I guess it's good and bad, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
you can basically curate what you want to be able to watch, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And people are
yeah,
broadening their horizons a little bit with that because they have the extra time, which is nice.
yeah. I'm actually curious because I personally didn't pick up a hobby during the quarantine just because
Mm-hmm.
focusing on other things. But I know Ryan, you started doing YouTube and music.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you picked up?
I mean, there have been a few things that I've picked up just for shits. Like like along the way, I learned like a little bit about cameras. I picked up a bunch of stuff about like sound design and lighting and just kind of like interior decorating just for fun. But I also just kind of fall down the rabbit hole of Reddit and YouTube for pretty much every day of the week because I get bored and I want to learn something. Donnie, you pick up anything interesting?
I don't know if I don't think I actually picked up anything new, which is kind of funny now that I think about it.
I mean, that's fine, right?
Circle
Like,
back to me. Yeah, I think I just repicked up old hobbies. But
that's
circle
fair.
back.
Like that's exactly what I kind of did with YouTube, right? Like I learned like video editing and production a long time ago, and then it was just like, well, let's take a bunch of different tools that I have and let's see if we can make something that's manageable. But like kind of related to that, I'm also happy to see a lot of people kind of okay with the norm. Like that attitude has shifted to what can I do for me? And I find a lot more people trying to hustle and do independent things, right? Like start small businesses or create original content and stuff like that. I am very happy to see, because even if all of our content goes nowhere, people are really trying to find themselves instead of just accepting whatever's in front of them.
Did you have new stuff you picked up, Nero? I know you posed the question. I want to ask you as well.
Yeah. I played a lot of GTA 5 in my first quarantine, so that was an important skill.
Yes, sir. Oh man.
I learned the struggles of what GTA 5 is and its glitches and its problems.
Right.
And then I left that hobby and started to focus on working out. So, no,
Nice.
honestly, I think actually I found it surprising, to be honest, but found more of an interest in like interior design and just curating a space that just feels right.
Oh
Just
yeah.
being a photographer itself, you kind of just learn to be like, hey, I want things to be aesthetically pleasing. So
Mhm.
instead of that being just in the photos, you then kind of translate that to your room.
Oh.
So, and especially now, people being in their rooms the entire time and working from home and whatnot. So you just kind of have to adapt to being like, I need to make my space much neater so I can be like more productive and just it just looks pleasing to the eye if you wake up in the morning and see
Yeah.
this is where I want to work, right? So, yeah, picked up an interest in basically learning how to curate the room.
As I sit here
Yeah.
with all this clutter that I've been too lazy to clean up.
That's actually a really. That's funny that all of us picked that up. I think I did the same thing because, like, literally, this was one of the first COVID or like quarantine things I did was I remodeled my whole room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I redid the whole thing. I installed new floors. We did new flooring with with the vinyl mats, so it actually wasn't like that was surprisingly easy. I cleared up like a whole mess of space. So like when I pushed my chair out of the way, like I have like a little cubby to the side, and I can push my chair out, and I have like a 10 by 8 foot square,
Mm-hmm.
which like was A, VR space. B was like the mat's squishy enough, like I can break dance and practice footwork here.
Right.
I can do dance. So that's also the point of the giant mirror. Maybe the hindsight wasn't perfect and like having the mirror behind me whenever here, but I'm like whatever. It makes my room look giant. So
And I mean,
you can
like,
appreciate my giant fan.
like a lot of it is just maximizing the potential of the space, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really nice is the fact that you can say, okay, how am I going to multi-purpose this, and what am I going to do to change? So, for instance, maybe it's just so it feels decluttered and less stressful. Sometimes it's like, how can I use this as a multi-purpose space, like my bedroom or my home office?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
I think
interior
I think
design.
Ryan, you actually asked this question before,
Mm-hmm.
but a skill like it just came to a thought in my mind. It's just like, what did you want to, I guess, like, accomplish this year?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Including a lot more stuff about, I guess, interior design would be just learning how to dance. I was just
Oh.
like, I'm curious
Yeah.
into like learning how to like not break dance but like hip hop dance. I'm like, I'm curious because you see people doing that,
Mm-hmm.
watching a lot of YouTube and just going, they look cool, and that's the extent of it at the end. But then also being
Come
like,
to
hey,
Waterloo.
it's just like, yeah, exactly. It's just like learning how to move your body like that. I'm like, this is very interesting.
We're slowly
Yeah.
watching the evolution of Niru go from a car guy to a rapper over the course of several years.
But it's so funny too. I know so many like there's like such a funny overlap between the car scene and dance scene in Waterloo too. Not that big, but there's like 2 or 3 like big car guys in Waterloo that are also just like really good break dancers or hip hop dancers.
Yeah, that's kind of
Well,
surprising.
I learned to break dance in Waterloo. Like not that long ago, like well, I guess 2 years ago, because we've been in quarantine for a year and I stopped dancing, which was pretty sad. But yeah, no, I learned with like the Waterloo dancers that all used to dance out of the university. Um, that was like a ton of fun, and like that's probably one of the biggest things I miss, and like why I'm like I can't wait for quarantine to be over or like rules to be lifted. Is like I want to go back out and dance with those guys.
Right.
Like when lockdown first started, we kind of like I used to like I would drive from Toronto to Waterloo just for like Friday night sessions. Because like when quarantine first started, we would literally do it. Like we would set up bags and people would just like take turns. Like we would social distance at our like sessions outdoors, especially
Mhm.
over the summertime.
Right.
And it was just like that was like a lot of fun. There'd always be people out for walks that were like super excited to just like have something to like video or just watch.
Mhm.
No, it's just like a very like cool community thing. Like dance is so much about community, and I didn't realize like how much of dance I loved for that reason.
Right.
Like it was kind of cool. Like I was in a very similar boat, right? Like you see it on YouTube, you see people doing it. Like, bro, this is cool. I want to learn. And then, but yeah,
Yeah, we should definitely
It's
have
been-
you guys link up in the future for some dance things.
Yeah, you can definitely. I say it now, but I'd be very very shy because Ryan knows too well.
no, I'm 100% the same, bro. Like I'm biggest wallflower. Like from I honestly wouldn't believe it. I just like did it on a whim. Basically, like we talk about like resolutions. I guess that was one of them. I was
Right.
like, fuck it. I'm gonna learn to dance. I'm gonna go. I can hate it if I want to, but I need to at least like just go, right? Like I don't know. I just wasn't getting anywhere. Like I was trying my best. Like I was like, I can watch YouTube tutorials. I can teach myself in my room. There's like something about having a person like just being able to have somebody just like explain to you, and you can just be like, I don't get that, and then they either get somebody else to explain it to you, or somebody else can try a different way,
Right.
and just like
Mhm.
having like the 7 or 8, probably even a dozen or more dancers that I got to talk to, and just like have them share like what is dance to them, like how do they move, like what does it mean to actually like how do they find groove, which is basically what we just like kind of describe the difference between somebody that like you know what I mean, right? Like you see like white people like we call white people dancing
Yeah.
literally like where like it just looks cringe and you can't really explain it, but like some other person can do almost the same move and look like really good doing it. You
Yeah.
talk about like like how groovy are they, right, when they dance, and that's something that's like really each person finds for themselves, and that was like a really really like difficult thing to kind of do in isolation with just YouTube videos and people teaching you choreo. There's like this whole I don't even X Factor sixth sense of just like feeling it. I don't even like I'm nowhere near in a place to teach, but I can like vaguely hopefully communicate that idea. But it's like when you're grooving out to music, it doesn't matter what you do or how you move, it'll look good. And like I've like seen dancers prove this to me, and it's insane. Like he's gonna be like I'm gonna do the chicken dance for you right now, but because like he has the groove and he's on beat, it looks good, and you're like, bro.
It's so funny because like there's the element of of performance, right, where you're really into it and it looks good.
That's a good way.
But also like I would refer to the underground meme of the industrial like goths under the bridge where they're all grooving out. just remember there's a limit. But coming back just a little bit,
yeah.
what do you guys think a well-adjusted individual looks like in 2021? Like what is the new like adult who's just kind of like, yeah, they've got their shit handled? Because like I don't think this year we're allowed to say that, you know, we've been surprised, we've been hit in the face. Like everyone has had a long enough time to say, okay, there's a new life that I'm living now. What is it? And what do we think the adjusted individual looks like?
Damn.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Big question.
That's a good one.
But this will be a good segue, right? Because I think it's important to keep in mind that what is it realistically to be living in 2021 and like not necessarily be thriving, but being that adult that like everyone is slowly turning
What's
into.
Changed?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what has changed? Digital literacy.
Yeah, that's
probably
a huge
one. Is a really big one that I think we take for granted a little bit. But like I know a lot of people that had to like just like learn the concept of Discord, right? Or like learn the concept of like something beyond just like random DMs.
Yep.
Like I feel like group chats existed in some extent like already, but really like the difference between that and like having a server of people where whether you're online offline you can communicate with like a large group of people, like because that basically replaced like friend groups more or less.
Yeah, for sure.
Is like a Discord. I would say I don't even know what Discord's competing with anymore. I don't think anything. Like Discord servers just basically came in. There was probably one guy that was techie enough in any friend group to be like, yo, we should just make a Discord server, and like did it for his friend group.
Yeah.
I feel like digital literacy in general, that like people just being comfortable communicating over text.
Yeah.
is like very, very important. Honestly, I didn't realize, like, I thought like I would be fine with it, but it's still weird. Like there's still that weird part of me that like doesn't want, like, it's almost worse to randomly DM a stranger than it is to talk to them in real life. I don't know which one's worse.
Well, see, that's
Like,
just it, right? Like, there's a whole lot of like social etiquette rules for like digital technologies. Like, for like if we're going with the Discord example, I think it's really interesting. When you get invited to a server, I always like knee-jerk reaction. I scroll through all of the channels and I see what kind of tone people have, how they treat this, right? But also, I've seen people just hop into like a server and they treat it like it's their own. Like they'll just drop memes when it's like a very business like thing, or they're like, oh hey, whatever, blah blah blah, and I'm like, yeah, like that's cool, that's acceptable, that's what people are gonna do, I guess. But like, I go in trying to match the vibe, and like that's just, I mean, maybe that's just my social paranoia, but like I do think that it's a big thing is like when your mother or grandmother got on Facebook, like you could tell the difference, right? And you're seeing that now with Discord.
With like, yeah, or just no, that's actually a really good point. I think that's really smart too. Of just like, it's almost like this new set of skills that we're looking for, and like, how do you like? It's like social skills for text.
Yeah.
That we've kind of been implicitly training. But you know what I mean? Like, you know how like it's like a thing you hear a lot in like Tinder dating. It's like people can be boring texters or like bad texters. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you like meet those people and he puts his hand up like he's like, yeah, that's me. But but like it's a really interesting thing that you have to deal with now. And you're starting to see that a lot more, where it's like, especially now that we've had like I'm talking with more people that I know didn't play games or were not like online savvy or not like internet people before. And it's just like, and you can still talk with them fine, because most people like transfer over to voice calls pretty well. But yeah, in text you can sometimes see that. And it's like, how do you read the mood? How do you know what tone to take it into? Is this a Pog Champ? Is this that kind of Discord channel?
Yeah,
is this I'm going to speak in Twitch memes only? Or is this maybe I actually do want to capitalize the first letter of every sentence but not add punctuation because, you know, people here are slightly more serious?
Yeah.
Am I going to get away with you?
No, it's so
and
true.
It's interesting how those all carry different meanings and tones.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's a good answer, and I hadn't thought about that. I guess in terms of like being a, what you said well-adjusted individual for 2021. Like learning, I guess it's tough, but it's just like learning how to take better care of your like surrounding community, I guess. And that could mean so many different things for you, but I think for me, especially where we're talking about if you're getting paid to work right now at the moment,
right?
Like it's super valuable, and then that money should therefore be going towards people that are trying to start new things and start new businesses and local businesses in your area, because it's going to be super tough for anyone in Toronto downtown or Waterloo, and they're going to be struggling super hard at the moment. So my goal essentially for the last year has been not to use Amazon at all. Just in terms of like reaching out and going like, hey, if there's a person out here that's doing this already, let's try and buy something off them.
Right, like being ethically responsible with the income that you are receiving, because things are different.
Right.
Exactly.
That's a really good one.
And it's just like learning to be like, it's not like Amazon needs more money. Like when people say like support small businesses and support your friends, that's not just text written on an Instagram bio or Instagram, post. Like you have to really follow through with that shit.
Yeah.
And it's just that's not you can't just write that down and then go about your own business, right? So it's just I think following through with that and like learning like what are local businesses in your area that really need help. Yeah.
That's a really good one. I like that a lot. I made that commitment for clothing. Like I've tried to like that one's like really, really big for me. Like I I would consider myself somebody that cares a lot about like clothing, or I guess like fashion specifically.
Right.
Like I like to look nice and I like to like style my outfits and I like to dress up. So I've been missing a lot of that in quarantine. But obviously that was like a big one for me as well. Like pretty much like over the last year or like shortly before quarantine started basically, I was kind of like, damn, I love me a good bargain, but I want to like stop buying from like fast fashion entirely. Like I wanna like cut out like H&M, Zara, all of the like just big brands that basically are just built on like we're just gonna churn out clothes. It's probably gonna end up in like landfill after one or two wears or just rip and be unwearable. And so like just like vintage supporting small businesses. I think that's like a really good just general point.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
like
it's going to be tough. Obviously, it's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah.
there's always certain things that you're just not going to get here, like
Mhm.
at like a local store. It's
Right.
just not going to be possible. But like if you're at least making the conscious effort in your mind, then you're making that step every single day. So
If there's any tea drinkers in Toronto, I don't know how far they ship, but there's this place called Tao Tea Leaf that gets all of their fair trade teas from China, and they're like fantastic. They sell like really high quality stuff. We went there in person. I went with my girlfriend. We went in person, and they were like super helpful. We were like completely new. We were like, we like tea, but we don't know what we're doing. Like it was actually like they were just so wholesome about it, and just like, okay, here you go. Like it's showing like how you would actually brew tea with like teas, how many times you can get away with rebrewing it, like how to use how much you
Wow.
should use for like teapots and stuff like that. And even just in general, their instructions are really good about just like here's how many grams, like 1 teaspoon, what are
Better
this,
tea.
and like
yeah,
and just
yeah,
like here's how you brew each of our teas basically. And they're just like really good about it. But Tao Tea Leaf, highly recommend if you drink tea and you live in Toronto.
I
Good
like it.
prices and just a
that's good.
nice
Mm-hmm. I think another.
local
Especially
tea
now.
shop.
Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I mean, if you have something to add to this, mine's kind of a segue.
No, you can.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So the thing is, like for the well-adjusted individual, I think a lot of us are going to see that the people who come out on top or like ready are the people that are okay to start things, because I think a lot of friend groups are dying if you don't have someone who takes charge, right? And so the person who is well adjusted in 2021 is the person that says, okay, I'm going to set up the Zoom call or make the schedule. I'm going to put everyone in the situation, because like a lot of people notoriously sit back, and it was always like an event or an outing or like a bar, something external that caused people to regroup and do things, right? This is why school had friend groups that were like super tight, and then sometimes those people would dissolve after school, right? And so you're going to see like a bigger extent of that is the people that take charge and make the plans happen or create the plans are going to be the people that come out on top, right? Because you really need to go for what you want when you don't have much going on.
Yeah,
Initiative is gonna be a big one. I feel like that was almost already true of adult friendships before.
Right. But now we have less
Like I feel like
excuses,
yeah, there's like even fewer reasons where it's like, but no, that's a really good one. I agree. Like there's like so many times where like especially like school and uni friends where like you saw each other in classes and then that class is over and you never see that person again. Like,
Yeah. It's like the friend that
You know what I
you
mean?
saw once a week for school or work or like on the street or something, that doesn't exist anymore, short of like seeing them commenting on Instagram and you replying.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's been reduced to. And for some people that's like most of what they have, unfortunately. So now's the chance.
Friends of convenience are kind of going away.
Yeah, exactly.
Like unless, which is like kind of interesting, isn't it? Like even like there is some like yeah, just overall I feel like initiative for all people has kind of had to go up.
Yeah.
Like even in like current friendships now, right? Like there's still some initiative taken for like starting game. I guess like that's the nice thing about some of the like more initiative is required, but I almost feel like it's easier to have initiative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like it's lower investment now, right?
Yeah,
because of the way
basically.
that people are connecting, whether it's like a Zoom call or games or something, it's just lower. But people that are not used to starting that, are not going to be able to get it going. But absolutely, right? Because things
It's
are
like there's
easier.
more time, less investment.
There's
but,
no
like,
travel distance. It's just right there.
Exactly. And you just all you have to do is do it, but it's still you have to do it.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
more like,
It's like, will you call your bank, or are you just gonna sit on this forever type of deal?
ah, shit, why'd you at me like that? I gotta do that still.
Shit. Same here. I'm not even kidding you.
No, me neither. You think I'm joking?
That's great.
God.
All right, so seeing as like we've talked about, what the person who is living in 2021 who's well adjusted and living their best life looks like, and what are the things that like we want to get rid of in the past, what are the things that like will help us, kind of like what are soft skills that are required. Actually, Donovan, do you want to explain what soft skills are for anyone who doesn't know out there?
Oh boy. Okay. So when we talk about soft skills, let's talk about the opposite that makes it a little bit easier. Let's talk about hard skills. Hard skills, hard and fast. Hard skills are anything that you can typically measure with like hard skills are usually what you're graded on in school. You could call anything basically you write an exam for and get a grade back. That's usually a hard skill. Let's take away English as one of those classes because I personally think writing is a soft skill, but it's like more up in the air. So talking about hard skills, we're like math, science. There's a right or there's a wrong. You are either like doing it well or doing it poorly, and you can learn those skills, and it's very knowledge based.
Right. Input,
I would say it's input, out, exactly, yeah. So what you put in, you get something out, following instructions. A hard skill is like baking. Some people would call cooking a soft skill, is a good kind of parallel for it. Where baking is a very like, follow these instructions to the T, and if you do it this way, you will get the thing at the end. Cooking has a lot more nuance, a kind of like, this adds this flavor. How much of it? This adds this flavor. This is a good base. This is a good sauce. Do you like it al dente or do you like it a bit harder? Cook it for 5-ish minutes, I guess. There's a lot of like that feeling. That's kind of soft skills are a lot more of that. Most of the common ones are any communication skills. You would call something soft. Anything that basically has some kind of underlying finesse to it. Usually these are learned by experiences. Some people will call being fluently, like speaking a language fluently will sometimes be called a soft skill, as opposed to like knowing vocabulary is a hard skill. That's kind of a rough overview, I think.
Yeah, and the reason
basically anything.
Yeah, the reason I want to talk about soft skills today is because they are usually the most transferable between things. If you learn like a soft skill well, you can apply it anywhere. And so, right, like it doesn't matter what your situation is. You could be, like a social media influencer who's got 4 million followers, and you're running a live, or you could be like a hustler on like the streets of Baghdad, right? Like a soft skill like communication is really going to get you where you want to be. And so I think for anyone who tunes in and listens, the value here is going to be what are the soft skills that you can work on, and how are they going to help you?
For sure.
So let's talk about the differences between the soft skills and digital soft skills, because I think both are going to be important, but like some more so. Right, so like we talked about, for instance, digital soft skills that we'll need to have, like being just having troubleshooting abilities, right? Like being able to set up things, being digitally literate, stuff like that are not going to be the same as, reading body language.
Yeah, I think we kind of alluded to it earlier, but I think that's going to be a very interesting one, and I don't know. Because I don't know how I learned this either, to be honest. I want to pose the question to the floor, but like picking up on text cues is something that I realize I do a lot more of than I thought I did. Like you can really tell a lot about someone. Like even when you talk to them for the first time, like depending on how they text, you can kind of get a feel for how that person is. Maybe not just the first time, but like over time, seeing how a person even just types has like similar connotations to like how that person is, at least online. Because there are a lot of people that have different, like they act differently online than they do in person. I feel like that's common, but you can at least get a feel for like, how am I going to interact with this person online? And I don't know where that sense came from. Maybe it's kind of just like, even just like communicating where you just do it a lot. It kind of just knowledge, like through experience, like you just kind of train an intuition. But I'd be curious to hear if you have like examples or stuff where, I don't know, you're just like when typing to somebody and it's something like clicked for you and you're like, whoa,
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that like for instance, anything that is like digital communication has its own subculture compared to like the subculture of meeting people, where I think it's a lot easier for you to pick things up with social cues because there are other people interacting and reacting to what's going on. Even if you are oblivious, if you can observe, you can figure out the context in the way that someone says something by the way that the world reacts to that. Here, there's a set of rules that only come through experience, right? And so because like our generation specifically has grown up texting, emailing, like instant messaging, stuff like that, we understand that if someone suddenly stops messaging you with emojis, she's probably angry at you, right? But it's right. There's a certain like curve
Sorry,
for
could you
learning.
repeat that again? I just have to write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it right. But like this all comes from experience, and so it's really hard to teach digital communication without you experiencing it, unless you just are scrolling through like Reddit threads, like beyond where they break down other communications, or you're just watching the interactions happen, right? Because there's like times to reference things, there's times to not, and you have to know your audience. It's weird. It's like every single message you receive has its own subculture with like the experience that you guys have together, uh, like the known patterns that that person has exhibited, and then the way that you're going to react to that or add life to it. Let's pull up like the last message from someone that I reached out to, or someone reached out to me.
Hey,
Okay,
it's gonna take my phone out and then remembered it's my webcam.
nice.
God damn.
It's the
Yeah,
Uber code.
fair, right? So sometimes people give me like 2 or 3 word like texts, and because I know that we don't communicate like a lot over text, I know that like what I'm gonna send them is pure information and that's it. Right? They're not looking for communication, they're looking for an answer. They're looking for what is this? Okay, cool. And that's fine. That's the type of digital relationship we have, which is very different than the in person where we'll chill and chat about everything. Whereas like another person who's messaging me is like someone's significant other and they're looking for advice. The second they open up a message is like, like it's just like a full on sentence like, hey, blah, 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 blah. I know what they're actually seeking for is like a lot of dialogue, right? And so the amount of investment someone puts into the initial message tells you not necessarily what they want from you in terms of like how much they want you to invest, but the type of investment they want, right? Maybe the person who sends me 2 messages wants me to do something, which is going to take way more than a simple paragraph. But you can get a lot just by like the context of the way that they word things, and it's hard to explain.
For sure.
But I want to know if you guys have some examples while I drum up something, because I really do think
Random.
communication is interesting.
I will pose this question. Do you guys type in all lowercase, or how do you usually text? Do you even notice, or will you type in all lowercase? Do you just like how punctuated are you when you text?
I will usually like capitalize a lot of stuff and add commas into it, but then I also do make typos because I tend to type quite fast and not review the actual text that I've sent out unless it's an actual email that I'm sending out to like a client or boss. But yeah, I do tend to find that I have a lot of typos a lot of times when I'm texting people. So
like on your phone or on like when you're like messaging
on the phone
keyboard?
or when I'm texting or when
Either.
I'm messaging
Okay,
people
okay.
on Discord as well. Like it's just, but like
Interesting.
I guess yeah, but I guess people know like what you're generally talking about because it's generally like a single letter that you've misplaced or that you've forgotten to type.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to go back and like say, hey, sorry, this is actually what I meant because I'm an idiot.
Thank God for editing text. So I actually try to have proper punctuation and sound.
Boomer.
But here's why, right?
Yeah.
So
go on.
For anyone except for my closest friends, I want a level of professionalism, and I want a level of this person has a brain on their head, because I act very carefree and like a total idiot just in person, and clearly if you watch me on stream,
Okay.
I do some dumb shit, right? When you have a conversation with me and like I still am trying to figure out what's the vibe, what's going on, I present like a level of like I'm an adult, just because
Right.
that's either more attractive to just a woman who's used to dealing with someone who says where you
Poggers.
at, right? You know, you up, some shit like that.
Yo, girl, you're poggers.
Right, or something like that. And then
Yeah.
and then, you know, if you're really close with me, like I might just be like, "Did you die to Donovan?" Right? Like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yep.
the difference. And like I only get to that informalness with really close friends, or if I'm in a meme group. I could not know you, and we're in a meme group, and it's fine. But those are the two situations that I text like that.
Okay. I pose that question because this is something I noticed about myself in general. My personality is now lowercase typing. All lowercase, all the time. Lowercase plus punctuation. That is my texting personality. And it's like the funniest. Like I'll go out of my way to uncapitalize autocorrected words when I text on my phone, which is when I picked it up. Like I'll make sure, like, cause you know how usually you'll auto capitalize your first word. I'll make sure to uncapitalize. Like I'll press shift again so that it's all lowercase. I'm texting to people.
That's with
And
everyone, or just
yeah, no, I take the opposite approach of Ryan. This is something that I realized about like in like maybe it's just for myself, like conquering my own social anxiety. Was this just like for myself? I put like the lowest common denominator of myself forward to all people that I meet, so that I very quickly they'll either respond in kind or they'll be very confused, and I just know right off the bat, should I waste time should I invest in getting to know this person anymore? Like we can be acquaintances, that's not a problem, but I've like long forgone that kind of, at least in like day-to-day interactions where it's like people my age or like casual interactions. I'm just very like forward. If I'm texting people I don't know, I will just very, very, very like casual and myself. And usually you'll either get people that are into it, they'll reply in kind. And you're like, cool, something's like, you can roll with that. Or you'll like see that they're just very much not into it, or they'll just like be very dry and clearly not interested. And that's kind of how I sussed out deciding like what conversation should I pursue or not. It's worked
fair.
for the most part. Maybe I've kind of
It's-
backed myself into a corner in some points, but
and you never really end conversations on text either, unless you're talking to someone.
yeah, exactly. Like it kind of usually just trails. It like fizzles out. Oh, that's actually a really interesting one.
It's just like we about to do a thing, or like you just say something and then
You say a
Kinda
lamau,
just-
you drop a lamau.
yeah, and then you just
Yeah,
kinda
that's
stop talking.
fair. A lot
That's
of
actually
people
a
feel like they get ghosted if they don't understand that like a lot of digital communication is like, this is interesting, fizzles out, and then at another time you reignite it instead of like,
Yeah,
oh, they just stopped
there's no-
messaging me back.
Yeah,
Why are you
exactly.
attacking me, Ryan?
I don't know.
You're on the show. Fight back.
Yeah. But like this stuff is really good to talk about, because like here's a good example. Like this might be for someone you don't know really well, and you're either trying to network with them or get to know them better. Do you guys double message? Like if you reach out to someone and they didn't respond, how do you feel about sending a second message at a later date?
Depends who the person is. If I'm like interested in talking to the person and like developing a longer romantic relationship, I guess,
Mhm.
then I would maybe be careful about like how I proceed.
Right.
But then if I have a genuine interesting conversation with them, or if I'm like super comfortable, I'd be very carefree about it,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
generally most of the time I tend to just be like, I will double text if I need to.
How about you, Donnie?
I'm pretty much the same. I'm in the same boat. I don't think I've ever. It depends. Yeah, it does. The context is important. I feel like if it is an initial like conversation, like if it's somebody I don't know, I probably won't double text. Unless I need to. Like I'll
Right.
double text people if it's like if there's like something I need from them, or like I don't know, if somebody told me to reach out to them for something, then I don't really care. Like, but I usually won't text more than once. Like, I also very rarely. I realize this. I don't know if it's like my own lack of initiative, but most interactions I have very rarely have cold opens. Like there's not a lot of situations, I guess, aside from like when I was online dating, that I would ever like actually have to just cold open with a text.
Right.
Most of the time, like texting was usually like, at least for me in most interactions, I usually, at least now, like since quarantine started, I'd always Discord call with people. And then we would start texting later. Then there was never like an issue of like double texting or whatever. It'd usually just be like sharing memes or whatever conversation at the time, or like, you know what I mean? Like it's not even at that point, I feel like I know them enough that it doesn't matter. But yeah, double texting and not getting a reply is usually, I'll usually like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't even know. I don't know if I have the rule is based on the number of texts. I feel like it's way more specific to the person.
See, what's funny is
Because like
I don't consider calling someone at all unless I need them right now, or like am gonna forget and need to talk about this. Normally, I will message someone. Like sometimes it's for work, sometimes it's for whatever. And if they don't respond, I usually like I have a rule of like I'll do it twice. So like if this becomes a consistent pattern where I need to double message you twice to get a response. Like, so for instance, I double message them and then they respond and we have a conversation. Cool. Then, you know, like time goes by, we talk a little bit, and then I need another piece of information or whatever, and I have to double message them again. That is the last time I will do it. After that, I let it die and I say, well, ball's in their court. I don't give a shit anymore. I don't mind owning the fact that, you know, you need something, you want something, go get it. But if like I put that energy out there a couple times and it's not met, I just drop it.
No, that's fair. Your time's valuable too.
Exactly.
Sorry, I meant like call us in. Like we'll play games together
True.
and we'll like talk in a like group call or something. Like I won't usually open conversation. I just mean like we're in a call talking,
Right.
like a Discord channel or something.
Okay.
That's more what I meant. So like we've met or spoken to each other, and then like, but I have friends where we'll like. I have so many friends that I'll talk to regularly on Discord or like on something else or even not, and we just send each other memes. And sometimes we'll just send like 9 or 10 memes in a row over the course of like 6 days, and then they'll eventually open it and like them all and send back. But like,
what else?
I don't know. Like, it's like an interesting.
Like the nature of the reasons that you're like communicating shows like a level of investment, right? Like it is so much easier for you to get on a call with a friend because you're playing a game or something than actually get on the phone. Like there's this distinction, if you will, about like the nature of what you're going to be talking about and how much you're going to put into it, right? Because if I'm like, hey, let's play a game, hop in the group chat, whatever, you feel like, yeah, this could be 10 seconds, this could be 20 minutes, and then I can cut it any time. Whereas if someone's like, hey, you know, like I want to give you a phone call, you're like, oh shit, I need to like give you my full attention. And you could literally have the same conversation on both platforms, but the way that you start that dialogue in the channel changes that.
That's so true.
So yeah, just be aware of like the way that you are going to start any communication or respond to any communication and what you want to get. So sometimes it's better to sneak in something like, not like, don't be an asshole and be like sneaking in something hella serious while like you got them in a good mood. But you know, like figure out what the nature of the conversation you're going to have and try and put it in the appropriate channel. Because so many times someone's like, hey, I need to call you, whatever. And it's just like a, hey, what's up? I miss you. Where you could be like, you text and be like, bro, it's been too long. Right? And then if you get into a call from there,
oh my God.
Right?
I know exactly
it's that level.
Those are two very different openings, by the way.
Exactly.
The first one is very
Holy
anxiety
shit.
driven.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and even if you have a lot of anxiety, it's just important to understand how to tailor that, right? Because we're all fucking nervous wrecks underneath like the public face, but like you can't always let it show.
Dude. I literally had that exact same thing happen to me. I had a friend of mine that I hadn't talked to. Like we were friends and we didn't talk for like a while. Like we were still communicating, but it was like kind of on and off. Like when quarantine first started, and then like I just remember like I was hanging out with my girlfriend, and then like I got a message that was like a fully like punctualized, like, or not even, it was just like a capital H, hey, can we talk, with a question mark. And that was the
Damn.
entire message.
Damn.
And I was like, holy shit. So I called and I was like, hey, is everything all right? And she's like, yeah, I'm just bored and I wanted to like catch up. And I'm like, motherfucker, bro. Like, God.
Right when you could have said, are you free to chat or whatever?
Yes, anything else but just like, hey, can you talk with the capitals and the actual punctuation? I was like, holy shit, is she all right? Like, is everything good? Someone died? Somebody got Rona? Like, what's going on? So I was like, well, it's like I was like watching a movie with my girlfriend. And I was like, oh, can we pause? I'm like worried.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it was just like a 15-minute like catch up. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my family, we're bored. I'm sick of my sister. And I was like, for fuck's sake, I love you, but like, god damn it.
Communication literacy, a really big soft skill, especially in the digital world.
Kind of a little on topic because you made me think of it and you talked about like the calling thing.
Yeah.
But this is something that I picked up with my friends, and I guess I will mention it as like a thing that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like in that big server now where it's like where you have like all the friends of friends and everything
Right.
like that. This obviously isn't open to anyone, but there's basically just the working expectation of like people just drop into that call basically whenever they're awake. Like it's basically just become a social hangout. So like you'll see people on their own in the call like all the time. It's just like it's just basically an open invitation for anyone to join. So
just vibing.
Personally, I haven't joined unless there's at least like if there's at least 3 people in there and I don't know them, sometimes I'll drop in.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're playing a game because it's pretty much open to whoever wants to.
Yeah.
And usually I won't join. Like, but most of the time I'll join as long as there's like one person I recognize.
Right.
But like even still, it's like just kind of nice, and that's something that like you can try because it even gets rid of that like having to even message of like it's just kind of an unspoken rule. Like I have that server and I have a couple others with like closer friends that are slightly smaller groups, but it's just go in there and then whenever people come online, they'll drop in with you.
Yeah. That stuff's always
that's
nice.
that's a similar thing going on with the Discord server I'm in of all the photographers and creators.
Yeah,
Usually when
nice.
there's like at least 2 or more people, then you'll tend to usually join in. It's because the group is kind of small, so we do tend to know a lot of people. So you join in when you want to,
Right.
instead of like, oh, I don't know this person, so I won't join in.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like I just talked to you literally a couple minutes ago, so I just wanted to work on my own project for a bit, and then I'll come back on again. So like yeah, that's super interesting that there's even a social, I guess, etiquette or not, like just rules you kind of made up on your own to be like, this is when I'm going to join. This is when I feel most comfortable.
Yeah. Just like as a concluding point, like there is a lot of unspoken rules to like digital communication, but everyone knows them, right? They're unwritten for a reason because no one's going to sit
with
you
the
down.
English language.
Totally, right? Absolutely. And that's just kind of the nature of how that unfolds as like a new avenue, like digital communication opens up, right? You just get their own nuances. But like another good soft skill for surviving the digital age is being able to troubleshoot. Donovan had a really cool analogy where he talked about troubleshooting problems like you're debugging a program. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I guess so. Like we kind of talked about this a little bit when we were preparing for the episode, but it was just basically like you can kind of it's specifically for me, I guess, of being a software developer and I guess having that mindset, and when you're just trained to solve problems in that way, and then it just becomes your default way of solving problems. But basically, like almost anything, and I think this is also a factor of overthinking, and that like the social anxiety and the overthinking situations and the programming, it just all kind of condenses into this like a way to deal with things that seemingly are just like difficult. But even like social scenarios and things like that, we have this principle of programming that's basically just break everything down into the smallest possible problem to solve, whatever it is, whatever big problem you have, you just break it down into tasks.
Right.
You kind of think of it like if I had to explain, like if you wanted to write a guide to somebody, like if I had to hand somebody instructions, and I wanted them to complete a task, like what is everything that you would need to do? Sometimes, usually you'll use the example of like a child, like very small child that can at least read and understand what do you need to write down for them to give it to them, and then they can like follow those step by step and complete it. And if you can do that, then you technically have an outline for code to solve whatever thing it is you need to do. And I've done like similar things with like, I guess just social and like more abstract problems as well.
Right.
For better or for worse, it is an alternative. There's a lot of times where I feel like you get stuck in situations that feel very, very overwhelming. Like there's just kind of like things where like friends get into fights, or like you're just stuck in awkward situations that just feel like shit, and you're like, I don't want to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it is an approach, because like I said, the like obvious con side is overthinking.
Right.
Which is kind of what you start getting into when you start trying to take any kind of social person and put them into this like box of I can explain it in a simple bunch of steps.
Mm-hmm.
But it is useful for like, I don't know, what is this person stake in it? What happened here? What does this person want? What does the other person want? Is there any overlap in now? Like what made this person angry? What made this person angry? Why won't they just get along? And if you just like break it down into anything, it's just a way to deal with issues. And it's kind of like troubleshooting for it literally is troubleshooting, right? It's like, oh, my computer won't turn on. All right, let's see. Is it plugged in? No. Is it plugged into the wall? Okay, like, is it plugged into the wall? Is it plugged into the computer?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Open it up. Are all the parts in there? And it's just like you triage it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess just that mindset approach, at least, is a way to deal with problems that are seemingly like way over your head. Is there any place you can go to like start?
Right. Niru, just gonna blindside you a little bit here.
Yes.
So, yeah. So in the context of troubleshooting, right? Last year, a lot of things were thrown your way, right? New avenues, change in content, change in the way you had to create and the way you had to shoot and stuff like that. And maybe, you're not always sure exactly what you were and were not allowed to do, and maybe the uncertainty of your work going forwards. What are the things that you did to troubleshoot? What are some tips that you have, and do you have a method to trying to stay on top of problems as they come up?
In terms of the approach I took for last year,
Mm-hmm.
my goal essentially was to try and get into the racing community
Right.
and try and work with a specific driver or get into a close relationship with someone that I could be on track with.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I didn't know that COVID was going to happen, but it kind of panned out in a way where I ended up having this close relationship with this driver. So essentially, I became one of the crew member for all the races he went to. So I was
Oh.
still able to do a lot of the work that to create a lot of the content that I basically needed, and to continue to progress in the career and the trajectory that I wanted to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this kind of goes back to your like previous point of like I didn't really create any resolutions, but I just knew what I wanted to do for the next coming year because I needed to shift essentially. And I guess a tool or a mindset you could really take is um, always trying to think about like what you're doing next.
Right.
Um, and this an example would be like if you just created a project or you completed a project,
Mm-hmm.
don't try and dwell on it too much. Try and continue to think what's the next project you have to do. Like hop on from the last project you did, and then continue to push forward. Um, because ultimately, even when there's obstacles in your way, you'll always find a different avenue to go around that obstacle.
So what is
Um,
the next step? What is the next opportunity type of deal?
Exactly, and trying to find those opportunities anywhere that you really can, making use of those connections. I think having using LinkedIn is I think people undervalue that as a platform,
Mm-hmm.
and they underuse it. So definitely try and use LinkedIn as much as possible in terms of like more specific in terms of like progressing your career,
Right.
um, which is I guess what's more relevant for us right now because we're trying to push forward and trying to push forward in our career, right? So
Yeah.
it's more relevant. Whereas yeah, so using those tools would be super super key. Um, connections are like don't try and use connections in terms of like just trying to get something out of them all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but instead try and really provide uh, key value to them.
Right. Bring
Um,
value to your network.
yeah, a perfect example of it would be this racing driver in particular. You can instantly tell when you're trying to overcome these obstacles. I basically saw that okay, he doesn't have great social media, so um, I essentially looked at that and said, you need sponsorship, and to get that sponsorship, you need the best content possible
Yep.
for the most amount of eyes to get to you, so that you can eventually progress in your racing career. So that's kind of what I pitched to the dad and him,
Mm-hmm.
and they were totally on board. And you know, it's crazy how quickly you start to bond with people, even though you've not known them for at least 5-6 years.
Right.
And you start to realize you actually don't need to know people for that long. You can connect to people very deeply, very quickly, if you have the similar interest and the similar mindset, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain situations which are different, but yeah, generally that tends to be the case. Is what I found.
So how did you expand your network to the point where you could start like pushing to find more opportunities and like really try and expand who you could provide value to, right? Because like value in any content in any like form of creation, product or service is very important, especially if you're striking it out on your own. How did you kind of like build your network to be able to get to the point where you're like, okay, I can definitely start to try and see where I can get a working opportunity here?
Yeah, it was more along the lines of essentially first starting out, because I think people are always afraid to start out,
Right.
especially on a thing that they haven't done before.
Hmm.
Um, and they usually tend to expect results very quickly, um, which is the thing that I'm still trying to learn as well. Is patience is very undervalued as a skill.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so just having to learn about, like, hey, this is, I can see the end road essentially.
Hmm.
Um, but in terms of like network wise, I we basically looked at the industry that I wanted to basically work in, and realize if there's a certain person I want to work with, how can I basically re-engineer and like reverse engineer basically um, the work that they're already creating,
Right.
and reverse engineer basically all the connections that they've made. Um,
Ah, I see.
Mm.
basically, like six degrees of separation, like the Kevin Bacon like degrees of separation essentially. So like seeing if there's a person that you want to work with, who is he connected to, and then keep going back until the point where he's that one person has worked with someone that's local.
Right.
Um, and eventually you will get to that stage of wanting to work with that person, or a similar person like that. Um,
Just to reiterate, the 6 degrees of separation is the idea that you could find like someone in your like area to connect you with almost anyone through six like people total, right?
yeah, I think it's if I'm not mistaken, it's 6 degrees, but the rule of thumb is essentially the more people you start to know like locally, then
Right.
then you start gaining more of a network outside of that, just that person, by continuing to do the best work possible.
Oh no, I like
Um,
that. Yeah.
just knowing the people is not going to help,
Mm-hmm.
but a perfect example would be um, the exotic car club that I work with
Yep.
locally here in Guelph.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know the owner quite well, and the guy that organized it. From there, he brought in a lot of members and customers from the GTA,
Right.
Waterloo, Kitchener, and slowly by showing face, um, you start to people start to recognize you.
Right.
And then from there, that kind of progressed to knowing a lot more people in the GTA and Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and then from Toronto, basically there's a lot of, once you start meeting a lot of those people, then and start making those progressions, then you start to realize that the industry that you're actually working in is very small, and there's a lot of people that know each other, and good
Mm-hmm.
work always gets passed around.
So my question for you is like this is really good, and I like the way that you look at it. But let's say you had to start everything over today. How do you think you would approach that right now, with like the lack of face-to-face interaction? Like, what are the steps you would take? Maybe you don't have an answer for it, but I am curious.
Yeah, no, we actually discussed this yesterday. So the answer would be if in s- I'll keep it more specific to photography and creative stuff,
Yeah,
but
that's totally
that's what I
fine.
know best. But say if you want to work with a specific client, like I don't know, um, if you want to work with Sport Check's not a very good example, but if you wanted to work with like I can't think of a specific company, but
Let's say like Nike.
yeah, I guess if you wanted to work with Nike, um, you know, that's the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Start to look at what type of work they're already creating in terms of, say, their video content and their photo content.
Right.
And because you're starting out, that means that you haven't had acquired those skills yet to get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
So the initial goal is to always try and better your skills.
Okay. Yeah, of
So
course.
that means practice. That means going out every single day to practice using your camera, using those techniques, editing, software, using the editing software, getting fully aware of how the editing suite works.
Right.
Researching as much as possible on YouTube and other platforms of how this content is being made specifically, because the initial phase of that learning of that learning is essentially grinding quite a lot
Yeah.
and basically picking up that skill and trying to get to a point where you can start charging for your work.
Mm-hmm.
Then from when you start charging your work, then it kind of gets to the real grind of like getting to Nike essentially. So trying to create work that's very, very similar in terms of the way that they create, but then adding your own twist to it.
Right.
So that anytime the creative director or the person organizing one of their video shoots or photo shoots looks at your piece of content and goes, "Oh, I didn't realize we created that piece of work. Who is this person?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's try and bring them on board and see if we can do some work with them.
Right.
But there's a lot of work that goes in your under in terms of your space where you have
Yeah.
to go and push your work out as much as possible and sharing that work. Um, so 50%, like I say, obviously it's difficult now, but 50% of the work is sharing it. 50% of it is networking.
Yeah.
Instagram and Adobe Behance are your greatest tools and assets for photo and video stuff, because that's where you start to realize who the players are in the community and in, say, the GTA and in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And then you slowly work your way up into getting your work recognized in those spaces. Joining communities, joining Facebook communities, Discord servers, really sharing your work is really the first step.
Right. Okay.
That was a
So
long-winded answer.
no, that's cool, right? So the idea here is like if we took this out of an industry specifically, what we're doing is we're looking at the kind of work we want to be doing or the people we want to be working with, and we take a look at like what that entails, right? What is the image? What is the content being produced? And you say, okay, I need to make sure that my skill set or whatever I'm making or whatever I'm doing replicates that. So you take a look at like the industry leads, let's say, and then you hone your craft. So then you get to the point where you can do that kind of specific thing that you're looking at, and then from there it's like, okay, where can I start on a small scale as I'm building a network? So let's say, in this case of like the photography or whatever, let's say we're gonna do like a showcase on like a local player who's got like potentially a good shot at getting a scholarship or noticed or whatever, right? From there, someone notices your content, hopefully. Maybe it takes a lot more. You do a lot more features, stuff like that. Then maybe you're hired on by a league. Maybe then like general sporting goods, and then eventually you start to become known in an industry because you've been copying the direction of the industry, and then you're able to start putting it out there on the small scale, and then build some kind of like a repertoire or a portfolio.
Yeah, initially when you start out, there's always the gap between the work that you're creating and the work that you're seeing,
Yeah,
and the gap is quite large.
for sure.
And that slowly tends to narrow down when you start to create more and more work, and it gets to a point where you're starting to create your own work that you like
Hmm.
and has your own twist to it, and that is essentially when people start recognizing your work because they want to hire great talent. So
Yeah, you find your individuality in the mix, which is important.
exactly.
That should not be overstated, right? If you can't find something that is uniquely you, then why should anyone bother?
Yeah, it's difficult to find that at first, obviously, but I think once you slowly start to work in that space,
Hmm.
then you start to realize how you can make it more different than what you're already seeing in the market out there.
Yeah.
So um, there's obviously everything's been done,
Hmm.
which is tricky, but you can always take inspiration from every single asset of life. Um, Specific example would be photography.
Right.
Um, is bringing in design work, video work, bringing comedy, architecture, and combining all those. This is where the person is made really, because their interests, your interests can be so different from the next photographer that
Hmm.
you're sitting next to, right? Each person has their own individual interests. So, and those individual interests will create the work that you hopefully want to make.
I like that. There's a lot of value in just looking at the pathway to potentially like sculpt a career out of thin air, which is it's interesting. Donnie, you have any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I agree with a lot of like what was said. Like echoes a lot of the similar stuff working in like UI UX design. Oh, it's like a lot of creative work follows a lot of like the same principles.
Hmm.
yeah,
Um, same. So yeah, but no, I agree. Same stuff. Networking is so important. Like I know it's like the big meme that everybody talks about. I don't know. I still don't use LinkedIn as I should. I don't know. It's just like there's no good reason. I know it's like probably one of like the best resources for just linking up with people, especially now when everybody's like that's basically how it's gonna happen now. Networking is just digital.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um, it's just but yeah, no, if you just and like the 6 degrees of separation thing is a really, really, really good point. I'll pass it back because I don't think I'm gonna say anything.
That's
It's just gonna be echoing basically. I agree with all that was said.
no, it's good here, right? Like, I think the fact that all of these things have a general roadmap that you can apply was the point of the value here, right? Like with the communication and knowing your appropriate channels, the troubleshooting and finding like the way around something, and then the networking to expand like what you're trying to do and accelerate that rate. Like all of those things can be applied pretty much anywhere, which is the point of this, right? If you're listening and you're trying to apply something to your own life, hopefully you want to look at something universal and then you slowly tailor it to yourself, which is hella good. That's the kind of content we strive for here.
Yeah, it's super dope. I think the hardest part is definitely getting over that first hurdle of like initiative. I think though, like the first step is definitely the hardest one, and the second hardest thing past the first step is I think dealing with like just dealing with rejection in general, which is just a shit part of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like a lot of that, especially in creative work, right? Like there's like for all the networking and stuff that you do, you're not like not every lead is going to take you somewhere, right? And that's kind of I think the like what the flip side of the coin basically that isn't talked about for as successful and as like good that networking is, it is
Mm-hmm.
not like it isn't a direct path. And there's like a lot of different like you would definitely have like more than one lead you might have to follow. You might have to do it like you're gonna have more than 10 leads you have to follow most likely, and not even that, right? Some people sometimes it's 100. Like there is that level of everything you do though is uh, if everything you do is rooted in that like bettering your skills,
Right.
and that's kind of like one of the like hardest things to get your mindset in. I really like the point you made at the start about like when you have those like resolutions, you basically you set yourself up for failure and you set yourself up for disappointment because you have like some far out goal that you want to reach, and it's like some mountain that you need to like get to the top of, when
Yeah.
in reality as long as you've gotten one step higher you're better off than you were last year, and that's really all that matters, right? So really focusing on the fact that no work you do is ever regress from what you've done before.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're really grinding something, you're never like no amount of time you spend on it is going to make you worse at it.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
fair.
when you're actually in a space grinding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like in that specific content, I think you can spin wheels on something for a long time, but when you really want to improve and you're really like going out there, you're like, these are the YouTube tutorials, these are the people I want to be like. Work that you're doing is going to get you somewhere, and it might not just. It's not going to be your like. Not everything you do is going to be your big break.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only like asterisk of everything that I heard so far. Yeah.
Yeah, I have this big rule for anything that's like creator work or anything that involves entrepreneurship, which is that life is a series of what ifs, and the people that get there more often than not just try and find more of those opportunities. Because like if every opportunity in your life went well, we would all be so well off. Right? Like how many contacts have you met that potentially could have changed your life? And like even just one of them, right? But the thing is those people are always around, and there's always a potential for something to be big, right? And it's just getting there is a series of trying to make sure that that happens more, and then eventually it'll just be able to create itself because you put yourself in the situations where you're likely to grow, where you're likely to have better results. And
That
if,
is, yeah, yeah. No,
right?
that is literally the reason I have like that mentality is literally what I have to thank for like pretty much all of my current like long-standing friendships basically. Like I guess like Ryan, like literally the reason I met Ryan was off of something based on that of just opportunities of like getting like I met Ryan at Waterloo Parkour Club
True.
in like yeah, at the University of Waterloo when I was in first year. And like that's how we met. And the reason I did it was like well, like, why not, right? Like, the more ways you can give yourselves like people to meet or opportunities. That was literally what helped me like defeat my social anxiety or basically get out there. Was it's just kind of like that mentality or like really getting stuck in or like really internalizing that like nothing is going to happen or more things are likely to happen if I give myself opportunities for them, right?
Right.
And university was like the first time I really had to confront that, like, oh, I can go to class, come home, and sleep and just not talk to anyone. And that's not going to change unless, like, you know what I mean? Like in high school, there's like group work and there's like some standard of like social circles and you're interacting. In university, bro, nobody cares, right? Like if you don't go out of your way to do it, there's not,
No, you're
things
right.
don't find you the same way. So kind of really, really like, really yeah, that like I guess that's just like a personal thing. Like that's what helped me get over that first hurdle, like scary step was just like, well shit, something could happen. And if it doesn't, I'm no better off. And if I did like it's literally no different than if I did nothing. So why not, right? Like
Yeah.
if you chase an opportunity and nothing happens, great. I could have just not chased it and it would have been exactly the same. So like and if anything, you chase an opportunity. So you learn something. And then it's just always net positive, right?
So my
Yeah,
question. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, no.
No,
No,
it's
no,
fine.
you first. Overrule the fucking host. Fucking Nero, let's go.
Yeah, I don't. I guess I don't see a like downside on like being more open-minded. Like
Oh, for sure.
a lot of
Yeah.
people um, basically stop themselves from having too much progress because I've never understood that mindset. Because this is why I can't explain it. Because like, what are you going to lose by being open-minded and trying something new?
Yeah.
Right? It's only causing you to stop your growth.
No,
It's
you're
like
right.
I just don't understand why you wouldn't be open-minded about things.
Unless you are
Obviously,
at the
there's
top of the world, why would you not try to continuously expand your horizons? And even then, I would argue no one's gotten there, right? Like if you're Jeff Bezos, you still don't like you're still missing out on several markets and like types of industries. Like you haven't actually won. Like compared to everyone else, sure, but right there's never like an opportunity for you to not continue to grow. Is like what I'm saying.
yeah, but I guess because sometimes like when we talk about growth, I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, career wise, money wise, it doesn't always have to be like success driven in terms of like monetary or career
Yeah, no, you're
based,
right.
right? It can just be about like I want new friends or
Mm-hmm.
I want more time to myself so I can focus on actual things that I like. You know, just things like that, because it doesn't, because then it can go the opposite where you just become like too focused on it, right?
Yeah, I do think we
Yeah,
tend to
no.
like dwell on those things because they're tangible numbers. Like it's really hard to talk about that my life is so full because I have all of these great friends and contacts that like they don't go anywhere for work, but they offer me wonderful experiences, right? But if we can very easily sit around and talk about, oh, how are your engagement numbers? You know, how has the work cycle been? You know, have you been able to shift to have your own schedule? Shit like that is like very tangible and very easy to look at. But you're right. Like this kind of attitude should be open to all parts of life because you just open up to more of what the world has to offer you. I really like that.
Yes, sir.
Question for you guys. Like for closing, like the 2021 toolkit, are there any closing notes that you have, stories or extra like tidbits that you think are very important that you're going to use yourself or other people could use in the coming year?
I think let's see. Let's go from the top, eh? Let's try to summarize. I think we can kind of like almost bullet point this off.
Yes, fair.
In no particular order, we can as things like reminder. I think we can talk about like how um, if you haven't been taking initiative, it is a great time to do so, or like
Yep.
start learning to. Initiative is more necessary than ever, but it's also easier than ever to like the I feel like the weight of taking initiative is much lower,
Right.
just because whatever, whether it's a game of Among Us, whether it's like whatever Jackbox you start with some friends, or
It's
even just
easy to
like in a
start it.
call, Minecraft server, like literally, apparently anybody can do anything now, right? Like we see, everyone's doing everything now. It doesn't even matter if it's online and it gives you a social interaction. People are down.
Yeah.
So taking initiative will, like, I feel like that ties into a lot of what we said in terms of like personal life. Like if you're dealing with like friends, taking initiative. If you're dealing with like work, everything is digital already. I kind of heard a lot of friends talking about this, where it's actually one of the best times to Cali or bust. That's kind of, we talk about that a lot in software dev, where Cali or bust is like go to San Fran, Silicon Valley, or
Yeah.
like that's it. You know, you do that or drop out. Like we have that. That's a big meme in all the comp sci programs. Um, but yeah, it's like one of the best times to do that. Make American dollars, live at home, but like why not, right? Like it's a great time. All recruitment is digital. All like all the skills that they're going to be looking for in new employees are going to be digital ones. If you're somebody that's already kind of like technically fluent enough to be listening to podcasts on like YouTube or Spotify, you're kind of basically already better than a large percentage of
That's
the
true.
population, honestly. Like we talk about our demographic, but even like people that are going for this, right? Like you've already taken some amount of initiative listening to a podcast on this subject matter.
That's
So
true.
there is like a lot of things that you can leverage in that regard. Like I'm actually kind of like I have a lot of friends who've been thinking about ways to like creatively ace like Zoom interviews, right? Like what things can they bring to the table? Like whether it's their nice setup, like you know, you have your whole setup, you look professional.
Right.
People have been like getting good cameras and stuff. Like just little things you can do, right? Anything that you have in your power to kind of like it's easier than ever. You don't need to be a full timer with a lot of experience and like all of the talents in the world. There's a big door for just digital communication and how we talked about digital literacy and everything like that. Those are the three biggest takeaways for me, I think. Just well, two technically, just initiative in everything that we do, and like being aware that digital literacy or digital soft skills are a thing.
Yeah. How about you,
How about
Nero?
you guys?
I think I'm going to reiterate a lot of what you said, to be honest.
Fair enough.
But just to add to that, it's just like loosen up. Like it's just like
Oh yeah, yeah.
I know we're stuck in a pandemic, but at the same time, it's just like just chill out for a bit, you know, like have a laugh at times. It's just like you know, um, try not to take things too seriously. Obviously, there's a time when you need to, but
Take quarantine seriously. That's the one.
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
But
it's
other
just
than
yeah.
that, you know,
But yeah, but other than that, it's just like I don't know, like it's too. I don't really know what point I'm trying to make, but
It is a good time. It's for a lot of people. Like they talk about, I if I can try to iterate for you, but I think it's
yeah,
kind of just about like you get this kind of like free trial. Like they talk about university as your free trial on adulthood. It's
Yeah.
like you're allowed to go and mess up. We are so like we went from being such a time starved society to being such a like time surplused.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like there was a lot of talk. I remember seeing a lot of articles about how people felt they had no free time, or like if they did, it was just like all free time was downtime because it was just so like go go go, right? Like for
Right.
the average working person, 9 to 5 commuting, all that fun stuff, like whatever. If you have kids, even even more time out of your day picking them up,
Mhm.
daycare, after school activities. But now it's like we've gone the opposite. You cut out commuting, um, hopefully not cut out a job, right? But for like even still, that's like all of this time where
Missing out on a job. Keep going.
but like I know, but like whether there's like all this time that was given back to us. The biggest one for a lot of people is commuting. And even like school is at home. There's very little travel time. And because of that, we're given like this opportunity now where you have like time to try things and time to fail. And I think that's kind of the point of like loosen up a little, right? Like don't be afraid. This is the best time out of any time to take initiative and like try new things, whatever that thing is. If it's anything like a remote interest, and kind of as we've like rehashed before, you're always at a net positive trying new things. You rather
Yeah.
learn something you like, you learn something you don't like, and you've gained knowledge about it at the end, regardless.
Yeah.
So use this like opportunity. It's like it is kind of like it isn't really like a free trial on adulthood, but you definitely have a lot of like you've got some 7 days of your money back on a quite like basically anything you want to do.
mhm,
Yeah, right? Like, this is the time to embrace change. Because the new norm is kind of uncertain for like how long this is going to stick around. You might as well find out what's going to make you happy in balancing your new life with work, your new life with your friends, and just like what are the things that are going to bring you value? Are the things that you've always been thinking about trying going to be good for you? Are you finding that the friends that you had are not the friends that you wanted, and you can go out and make new ones or connect with old ones, right? This is the time to really take the opportunity of all this free time and tailor your life to be what you want, right? This is the time for you to design your life however you like because you have all the free time. And if you don't try and embrace that, then I think you're missing out on an opportunity.
He said go out and make friends, but he meant stay in and make friends online. That's what he meant.
Yeah, like yeah.
I'm teasing.
like go out of your
No, I
ways
agree,
and
I
send
agree.
messages,
Yeah.
join, check out the YouTube, and I'll explain how to make new communities. But yeah,
Oh,
I think
YouTube drop.
I think we'll conclude the episode with that. If you're interested in these creatives here, their socials are linked below. Thank you so much for checking us out, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic life. Enjoy your
Thank you to
2021.
Niru. Thank you for Niru
Exactly.
for taking busy time out of his day, out of his hustle, bro. This man started his brand new year. He's got the whole world on his roadmap, and he took time out of his day to come and chat with us. So
I
thank
know.
you, Niru.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Remember us when you are the only F1 photographer.